Hey everyone, welcome to the Meeple Society. Today I am going to do a rules breakdown for you of Revive. So before we get started, let me kind of go over the storyline behind Revive. The idea is that roughly 5,000 years ago, something destroyed the earth. And now, after all that time underground, your tribe, you are leading your tribe out into what is basically a frozen expanse to try to revive civilization. Throughout the game, you're going to be developing various machines and opening up various tribe abilities so that you can hopefully lead your tribe to victory. To start out with, set your board out in the middle of the table. Before we go any further, let me kind of break down the board for you. Here is your victory point track. You're going to be keeping track of all the in-game victory points on this one. This is your hibernation track. Each time you have to hibernate, you're going to move up on this track and gain various bonuses. The middle of the board is the play area. The game comes with 5 starter tiles, and all of the starter stuff is identified by this giant S on the back of it. So you're going to shuffle these up and you're going to place them face up around this area in the center. This central area is the cavern that all of the various tribe leaders are coming out of at the start of the game. This is where you start your movement from. All right, so we're going to place those out like so. After that, you're going to take all of the other tiles. There is a slew of other tiles. We'll just shuffle these up a little bit. These are very hard to shuffle. Okay, so now you're going to place all of these around like so. Now, as you can see, there is a grid layout on the board, so you do have to follow the grids as far as orientation. Then you're going to take the end game bonus tiles, and these are dual-sided. So you're going to shuffle these up. You're only going to use 4 of them, but these go into the corner areas. These are large locations in the corners. So we're going to shuffle them up. We'll just put that one there. Flip this guy over and put this guy here. And then whatever's left, just sit out of the game. You're going to take the major artifact tokens, which are these tokens here, and you're going to place those on the board. Now, these tokens come in 3 different colors, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But on the backs of each one of them are player counts. And depending on the number of players you're going to use, that's the ones that you set out. So if we set up for a 3-player game, we're going to take the 2 that are identified as 4-player and take those out of the game. And we're going to take the rest of them and put them on the board. Doesn't matter where they go on the board because you're going to get to choose which one you want when you get a chance to take one. There we go. All right, then you're going to take your minor artifact tokens, which are these, and stack these up in the spot on the board for them. And then you're going to take this one that says 4 and put it right on top. There are also machine tokens of 3 different colors. You're going to take these machine tokens and, well, on the back side of each one of them are special abilities, and each one does something different when you're able to activate it. And we'll kind of go into that here in a little bit with the actions. But you're going to take these and you're going to set them next to the board. Reveal the top 3 of each one. All right, then you've also got energy. You're going to take that and set that aside. There are the crates. So you're going to take all of the crate tokens and put them into a couple of stacks next to the board. Crate tokens are one-time uses that give resources, potentially victory points, one-time activation type things. So you're going to take all of these and set them next to the board. You do not reveal any of these though. These are all random when you grab them. You don't get to choose them. Then you've got your deck of cards. These are your tribe cards. And you're going to take these and shuffle them up and set them next to the board as well. We're going to have to do a little rearranging here, but that's okay. And then reveal the top 5 cards from the deck. These are the tribe members that everybody has access to when they're allowed to take a card. All right, so that is the board setup. So I'm going to shove this back just a little bit and we're going to do the player board. All right, so I've repositioned the board a little bit and all of its components in order to make room for the player boards. Forgot how much room these player boards take. All right, so your player boards, you have your machine board. And the machine board has various locations for several things throughout, and we're going to explain how to set this up in just a second. And then you have your tribe board. Your tribe boards, there's 4 that comes with the base game. For now, I'm just going to grab one randomly for the sake of setup, and we'll go into how to read the boards here in just a moment. All right, so each player takes all of their components, and I've got all of mine separated into one little area. You have got your tribes people, or no, I'm sorry, these are your score markers. You've got your little tribes people. You've got your blue discs. You've got your switch token. Everybody gets 1 energy. Your resource tokens, and then these are your machine track tokens. All right, so the machine track tokens go into their matching color on the 1 spot of each track. Your energy goes right in the center for now. You're going to take your 4 markers. Everybody starts with a crystal, and how much else you start with depends on player position in starting order. So you're going to put one of your score markers on the bottom of the hibernation track. You're going to put the other on the 050 mark up here on the board. You are going to take all of your shelters, your little huts, and put them onto your board. The 5 small ones go on top. The 2 large ones go on bottom, or 3 large ones, sorry, go on bottom of your board. All of your little tribes people, you've got 7 little tribes people, go onto your board here where it shows. Your switch token goes up into the area where it's covering the red token, the red icons. Put your player aid. This is your action aid. Put that near your board. And then all of these blue discs go onto your boards. 5 of them cover your tribe ability here on your tribe board. The rest of them cover each of these machine slots on your machine board. And then each player takes a set of starting cards. Now there are 4 sets of starting cards identified, the individual sets, because they're not all identical. They all have access to the same resources, but they come in various layouts. So not every card in every deck is identical, but they're identified by these little bitty letters on the side of the card, and that makes up your starting deck. So everybody takes 1 set of starting cards. You shuffle them together, put 3 to the side of your board in this little alcove here. That is your resting location, and the other 3 get turned face up, and these are the cards you have access to at the start of the game. Also part of setup, you're going to take your slot module tokens. Now I've got all of mine in a bag. The book suggests just stacking them all up. We have put ours into a bag and just draw them randomly. So you're going to set, however you wish to do it, you're going to set it aside, draw the top 5, and lay those out for everybody to see, because those are going to be the ones you get to choose from right off the bat. All right, and there's also 2 cubes that are used to mark actions throughout the game. I'll explain how these come in handy in a little bit. So we'll set those aside too. All right, there is also a set of endgame scorecards. Deal 1 to each player randomly. Now these are kept hidden throughout the game. These are your private goals. Set the rest out of the game because you won't have access to any more. Before we go too far, I'm going to start with just how to read some of the stuff, how to read your player boards, how to read the cards, and how to read some of the tiles on the board. So starting with your player board, as I said, is made up of 2 parts. You have your machine board and you have your tribe board. Down here is your resource trackers. So there are no physical resources in the game other than energy. This is how you track everything. If you ever get more than you can store or carry, then you lose them. So if I gain books somehow, then I simply move my book marker up. If I gain food, I move my food. If I gain gears, I move my gears. Now, gears are used primarily for building my shelters out on the board. Food is used to travel as well as to search and to explore on the board. And books are used to explore as well as to put my tribes people out on the board. And then you have your crystals. Crystals act as a wild. They can stand in for anything. At various points of the game, you can trade other goods for crystals or vice versa. At any point as a free action, you can trade a crystal for another good. In the center of the board is your machine, basically your machine tracks. As you gain movement on your tracks, which are gained with various icons on the board, I'll come back to that. You simply move that track up. If you unlock anything, then you remove that token. So for example, if I get the ability to move my green token twice, I would move it. I would unlock this one, so I would remove it because that is the only thing connected to my small machine. For every blue token I remove, I slot it here on this track on the side of my board. At the end of the game, this is victory points, but it also gives you some special bonuses throughout. Let me move this over, see if you can see this better. On the side of the board, there are special bonuses I gain the more I'm able to fill this up. All right, so now some of these machines are blocked in two ways. So even though I get to the 3 in green and I unlock this one in green, I'm not there on the gray and I need to get to 7 to unlock it. When I get my gray up to 7, then I can remove this one and also slot it. And at that point, I now have a hole on my board. I have a blank machine. I can go over here to the green machines on the board and pick one and put it into that slot. And that now becomes a permanent ability I have if I activate it. Now, as you're progressing through this, you're going to be unlocking all of your special ones. As you cover up certain bonuses on your board, you grab that. So if I cover an energy, I get an extra energy. As I cover a minor art or a major artifact, I simply take one of the major artifacts. I'm going to come back to those though. All right, so energy is used in order to activate machines. And the 3 basic machines that everybody starts with, all the boards are the same here. This one allows you to trade any one resource in for a crystal. Ultimately, that lets you trade it to a different resource if you choose, but there are some actions that require crystals in order to use them. So this lets you trade any one resource in for a crystal. This one here lets you move further on the board. It extends your range once without having to pay for it. So we're going to come back to that when we start talking about movement. And then this one up here lets you unslot a card so that that spot is now empty again. Again, that will make more sense in just a moment. But as you're moving up, some of these spaces do different things. So for example, as I get to here, this one lets me take a major artifact. This one gives me endgame scoring because now I can score all my yellow cards. And then you've got slots here for 2 machines in both green, gray, and yellow. All right, so also on the machine board are the card slots. Now with a card slot, you choose the card you're going to put in there, and then you choose which way you're going to go with it. Each card works the same way, essentially. Every card has both a top action and a bottom action. Which sets of actions you want or which action you want is going to determine where you need to put it. So for example, if I need books, then I'm going to slot this up on the top of my board. So now I get 2 books out of it, and I simply move my book marker up by 2. If I really want to take the bottom action though, I can slide it down here and I take the bottom action. Now this particular bottom action, I can do one of 2 things. I can either take a slot marker or I can take my tribe ability. So let's go on to the slot markers now. The slot markers are these tokens here. Now let me just pull these 5 I have laying out. These are slot markers. You're looking at a couple of different things when you choose these. You're looking at what it's going to give you. So this one will give me 2 gears. This will give me a gear, food, 2 food. There's ones in here that give you books. Oh, there we go. There's one that gives me books. There's one that gives me a crystal. So those are the basic ones you're going to see in the base game. So how this works, you choose the one you want. And again, you're looking at 2 different things. You're looking at what it gives you and you're looking at the colors. Because in order to activate it on a regular basis, you have to match the color of the card with the color of the token. So if I slot a green token down here, number 1, on your board, there are these icons here. If you slot a token over that one of those icons, you immediately activate the token. So I would immediately gain 2 books and move my book marker up. So then I take my card, and when I slot my card there, not only do I get the action on the card, but I get the 2 books because the card colors match. Now, if I had had this here, I would not get the food bonus because the card color doesn't match the icon color. But that's where a lot of these come in handy, where you've got the dual colors, because I could slot a green card here, or I could slot a gray card here and get this, still be able to get this gear ability. All right, so this card here, what it allows me to do is to take one of these tokens and slot it somewhere on my board. And if I slot into one of the activation spots, then I immediately get to activate the token. The other option it gives me is to activate my tribe ability. My tribe ability is over here. All right, so I'm going to pull a different one here so you can see it a little closer. This icon activates this ability. And every time I activate this ability, I can spend a food to get 2 victory points. And I would move my marker up on the victory point track. I would take one of the blue markers off of the board and I would slot it beside my board, like so. While we are on the player boards, let me go ahead and continue there. I've done my ability. Now, Nadir's ability gives me 2 books. So every time I activate this card and activate her tribe ability, she gets 2 books. Great. Also on the board is our little shelters, and I'm going to explain how those go out in just a moment. And then we've got your tribe specialties here. As you are able to remove your tribe people, and again, that's one of the actions you can take on the board. I'm going to go into that in a moment. But it activates specific things. Like, for instance, this one says I can spend books instead of food or gears whenever I am paying costs. And once I remove this guy, that is just an automatic thing. I don't have to activate it. I don't have to do anything else to do so. It just becomes an innate ability. For instance, this one says that now whenever I activate my tribe ability, I get an additional book and a victory point. That's kind of nice. This one and these 2 are different on every board. The other 4, the top 3 and the middle one, are the same on every board. This one here allows you to open up this slot. This particular spot on your player board is blocked until you open this up. And then these top ones give you a major artifact and then another ability, either more energy, more victory points, or one of the crates, the one-time use crates. All right, so that is as you are removing them. Now, as you're removing them, though, you have to pay books. But again, we're going to come back to that because that's all part of your actions. So the last piece of the player stuff to explain are my major artifact cards. So this card here, each person gets their own. This is what you are going to score on that nobody else might. Depends on what their card was as well. So, for example, this one here says for each of those little beakers I have on my board, I score a point. This one here says for each crystal on the side of the board I'm near, I score 2 points. And this one says that for every one of my tribes people I put out, I score a point. Now these get amplified by the major artifacts. So when I have the ability to take a major artifact, for example, when I hit 5 on my player board, I can take a major artifact. I know I'm collecting beakers. Well, now for every beaker I have, I score double. I get to score it again. And if I get a silver one, then for every person I put out, I score double. And you can collect these. So maybe I got another one. Maybe I'm focusing on getting my people out. Now I score 3 times. So these just amplify your scoring at the end of the game. The end game scoring tokens on the board themselves, again, all double-sided. They all, like this guy, for every tribes person I get out, I get 2 points. The flip side is for every tribes person on one of these tiles, I get 3 points. So again, as you're putting these out, you're going to decide which side to put them on. And the last one to look at, well, I've got 2 things left to describe. The last couple things, let me get a couple of different options here. So are these tiles, what you're going to explore. The back of the tile shows an idea of what might be there. So for example, this one might have a lake in it. This guy probably has a city in it. Well, it will have a city in it. The food, this is what it costs in order to explore there. Oh, one more type, because this guy requires something else. All right, so for example, this one cost me 5 food to explore, but I get 5 victory points and I get to draw a tribes card. This is the primary way you're going to get tribe cards. This one costs 2 food, but again, I get a victory point and a tribe card. This costs 3, 2 points and a tribe card. This one costs 2 food and 2 books. It's going to give me 4 points and a tribe card. As you explore them, you're going to flip them over and you're going to decide how they go back on the board. You get to decide which way they rotate. They just have to stay within the pattern allowed on the board. On the flip side of these, how you read some of these or what some of these icons mean, these are lakes. You can only activate a lake one time. Doesn't matter how many people you put around it, you can only activate a lake one time, but you get the bonus that's in the lake. These icons here with the arrows allow you to move up on your machine board. So if you build next to one, you move up that color so many times. And then the last item is the sand spaces. Sand spaces are where you actually build your houses, your little shelters. So your people go onto the cities, your shelters go onto the sand spaces, and you're activating all of these other locations. You can't actually build on them or populate them. All right, so let's put these back on the board. One other thing, there are two different types of victory points you're going to see throughout the game. You have your in-game scoring, which looks like this blue symbol here. And then you have your end game scoring, which looks like this purple symbol here. So anytime you see the blue, you score it right away and you move down the victory point track, hopefully picking up resources or benefits as you go. And then anytime you see the purple, you have to wait till the end of the game to score those. All right, so now how to play. Before I go too far into that, I will say this game did come with a scenario pack. It was a deck of cards that led you through your first 5 games. And with each game, it opened up a new rule. The first game, it just gave you some storyline, it gave you the background of the world, and then let you dig in. Starting with the second game, it started opening up new things. There's not a lot that it opened up. They're all very minor rules, a few new components, a couple minor changes to existing rules. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'm not going to use those. However, if you're interested and you want to just dig fully into it without going through the cards, I will explain those at the end of the video. So stick around for that. We also have the expansion, and I'm going to kind of briefly go over what that adds as well. All right, so now how to play. Each turn, you get 2 actions. You have 2 different things you can do, basically. You can either take 2 actions on this side of the board, or you can hibernate. If you hibernate, that's all you do. All right, so the actions, what those involve, and this is where the cubes come in. At the start of the game, your actions are going to be pretty simple, but by about round 3 or 4, you're probably going to have a little more complex actions, and this helps you keep track of what you've done. You can do 2 actions one time, or you can do 1 action twice, so you can duplicate your actions. So for example, this one lets me play a card. So I would take a card from my board, and I would slot it in and do the action. In this case, I don't have any slot modules. I just get 2 gears. So I would, well, I've already got 5, but I would raise it up to 6. So that's playing a card. This is moving my switch down. When you move your switch down, you get 1 basic resource. You can just take a resource of whatever you wish. That's an action. These 3 actions all happen directly on the board. Each one of these are going to involve counting distance. So let me explain that before we go into what each individual action is. Counting distance, you're counting the spaces between where you're at and where you want to go. At the start of the game, everybody's coming up out of the central cavern. This is where you're coming up out of the frozen earth in order to explore. So you're counting from this location. Now, you cannot move through water hexes. So you can't move through this lake, for instance, but you can move through everything else. You can move through the forests and the mountains and the plains and, of course, through the sand. So if I'm coming up out of here and I want to explore here, I would have to pay 1 food. So because no matter which way I went, it's going to take me 1 space. So maybe I wanted to go over here and explore this 4-pointer one because I'm looking for some lakes. So it would cost me 2 food to get there. No matter how I went, it's going to cost me 2 food. And then once I get there, it's going to cost me some other stuff. So no matter where you're going, even if you're building, maybe I'm going to build right here. It's going to cost me 1 food to get through the city, and then I can build right here. But if I wanted to build or populate directly around the center spot, it doesn't cost me any food. I just have to pay the resources required for the action itself. So now the actions themselves. First action listed is to explore. Now when you explore, you are counting out to an unexplored location, one of the ice locations, and paying those resources in order to flip that tile over. So as I said, for this one, it's going to cost me 1 food and then 3 food to get here. I can see there's a city on the back side of it. Great. I'm going to get 2 victory points, so I move my marker down 2 points, and I get a card. As soon as I explore this tile, I immediately get that card. He goes into my active display. I have access to him immediately. I don't have to put him in the rest pile just yet. So I take all the stuff I get, I pay all my resources, so I'm going to pay my 4 food, and I flip him over. And I can determine which way I want this to go. And some of the things I'm looking at are the activation of the different areas for the machine tracks. I may be looking at where this city is. Maybe I want that city to be near something else so that I can easily get to it to put a tribes person on it. So I'm going to lay this guy like this. The next action is to build. Now, when you build, you're building on the sand locations. Building costs gears. I still have to pay my food to travel, but I have to pay gears in order to build. So your small buildings cost 3, your large buildings cost 5 gears in order to build, and you can build them on any one of the sand locations. So again, if I'm coming out here, even though I've explored this area, I don't have anything out here, so I still have to come out of this central area. So I come out to here, maybe I want to build right here. This is a really good location to build. So it would cost me 1 food. I take one of my small buildings, and I put it here, and I pay my 3 gears for it. Now that I've built here, I get to activate anything that's around it. I get to activate my machine, my green machine. So I activate that one. Oh, look, I've opened up this one because I've landed on the 2. That goes over here. I activate the gray machine. So I do that one. Oh, I've opened up that one too, so I get to move that. I also get to activate the yellow machine because I'm built around all 3 of them. If I had built here, I would get the yellow and gray. If I had built over here, I would get the green and gray. But right here seems the best spot, so we're going to go there. But I also get to activate the yellow, so I move that, and I get to move that one as well. Now I've opened up all 3 of my small machines. From here on, I now count from here. I no longer count from here. I've come out of the cavern. None of my tribe is still down there, so I'm now counting off of my nearest location. Doesn't have to be your last location. So if I want to go clear up here, it's going to cost me 1, 2, 3 to get to this tile. And then I build something on this tile later on, and now I can count off of either one of them. Had I built a large building, and I had enough gears to do it, so, but let's say I built that large building instead. I would put that back. I would take one of my large buildings and put it here. And the large building, and it does say so right on your player board, right here, it shows you get 2 activations for each large building. So I get 2 activations per large building. I would get to move my green one 2 instead of just 1. And my gray one 2. And my yellow one 2. Now those don't open up anything yet because I have to get something to 7 to do so. But I've moved everything twice now. The next time somebody explores, and maybe I go to explore this one, I pay my books. I'm right next to it, so I don't have to pay travel costs, but I pay my books, I pay my food, I get my points, and I get my extra card, and I flip this over. I get to choose how this lays down, and this is where this becomes very important, because if I lay it this way, I don't get anything extra. But if I lay it this way, I'm now next to a lake. Now, lakes can only be activated once. Doesn't matter what type of building is there. Just because the large building is there does not mean I get to activate it twice. I only get to activate it 1 time. If I were to build right here, I still cannot activate it again. I've already activated it once. Each player can only activate the lake once. Now, if somebody else went here, they could activate this. So in this case, I get a crate token. And I can look at it at any time. This gives me 2 free books. Great. I keep it secret until I want to use it, though. I don't have to use it right now. I can save it and use it at the very end of the game if I need to. But I'm going to hold on to that until I need books and don't have any. All right, and the last major action you have to choose from is to populate. To populate costs books. You still have to pay food for travel costs, but it costs books. And that's signified here on your board. So for example, to take this first guy off, and you have to start with the bottom. You can't just start in the middle or at the top. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up the tree. So in order to remove this first guy, it cost me 2 books. And then I put this meeple on the board somewhere. Where you can populate at, you can populate into old cities. Right now I have 3 of them available to me. I can populate at the edge of the board. Right now none of those are available because I can't travel through the frozen areas. You have to explore them first. So maybe I want to go here. It's going to cost me a food and 2 books because the 2 books right there. If I go over to here, it's going to cost me 1 food and 2 books. But if I want to get clear to here to give myself something on the other side of the board, it's going to cost me 3 food and then again those 2 books. I'm going to populate this one. It doesn't do anything else except count for distance, but it's off my board and I now have access to my tribe ability. And now I can now go to any of the 3 above it to open those up so that I can use those abilities. All right, those are all the actions you have. So you have these 5 actions available to you. In addition, you can use any number of free actions. Free actions are basically using your energy to activate any of the things on your board. Right now, I only have 3 open to me. I could remove a card to open up a space. So maybe I want to remove this card so I can use that top space again. This one here lets me travel 1 extra space without having to pay the food. So maybe if I'd had this open, which I did, I could have used an energy here before I traveled. I wouldn't have had to pay the food for right there. And then, like I explained earlier, this one lets me trade in any resource for a crystal. So once you've exhausted everything you can do, you've slotted all your cards, there's nothing else you can do, you've used your switch token, one other option you can choose is to hibernate. And to hibernate, this just basically tells you what you can do. Now, before hibernating, you can use as much energy as you want, and you might as well if you can, because you're going to get it all back. After you hibernate, you can no longer use energy. When you hibernate, you take all of the cards, well, first of all, you take all the cards out of your rest area, and you put them up. They are now your active cards. Then I take all the cards that are under my board, and I slide them into my rest area. I move my switch up. I refresh all my energy back to the center of my board so all those machines become open again. And then I move myself up on the hibernation track. And then I get the ability. So this one lets me take a token. So I'm going to take a token. I'm going to put it somewhere on my board. And again, if I put it into one of those checkmark slots, I get to activate that immediately. Once you get further up, you can choose either the location where you're at or any location below you. You don't have to choose the one where you landed. Except for this one where it's in red, you have to do that action. You have to remove one of these. These are your game end trigger. And I probably should have said that a lot earlier. This is the timer in the game. When the major artifacts are gone, that ends the game. So this one kind of helps speed that game along. Now this, you don't get this. This gets removed from the game. It's gone. Nobody gets it. On the scoreboard, as you can see, at 5, 10, and 20, you're going to gain a crate token. And you're going to add that crate token to your stash to use later on. At 15 and 25, you're going to gain a major artifact. Over here on your player board, again, at 3, 7, and 12, you're going to gain more energy, and you're just going to add that to your board. At 5, you're going to gain a major artifact. As you're progressing up these tracks, when you get to 5 and 10 on any of the 2 tracks, any combination of the 2 tracks, then you're going to get a major artifact. You actually have the ability of getting 6 major artifacts throughout the game. Well, actually, no, 9, because you've got 3 here on your player board as well. You will not get all 9. There's only 10 available in a 3-player game, but those options are there and how you want to progress toward them. Again, when those run out, whoever takes the last one, that triggers the end of the game. If you triggered the end of the game, you get this 4-point token, whether you got the last artifact or not. Your action may have triggered something where somebody got to move up a victory point or got to move up on a track here. And by doing so, they get that last artifact. So in that instance, they would get the artifact, you would get this 4-point token. Everybody else gets 1 more turn, and then that ends the game. At that point, you start counting up victory points. Now, one thing I will note, and I probably should have done this, as you take cards from when you're exploring, as you take tokens out, as you remove these tokens, you immediately replace them. You immediately have access to 5. You should always have access to 5 slot tokens, 5 cards, and 3 each of those. By the end of the game, of course, much more of this is going to be uncovered. You're going to have lots of things out. You're going to be able to have gotten to a couple of these, hopefully, end game scoring areas. At the end of the game, you are going to add up the points on your progress board. So if I had gotten, say, by removing stuff from here, I'd gotten all the way up to the 14, then I would get 16 points on my progress board. I'm also going to score any points opened up here on my tribe board. So all of these victory points here, I'm going to get, so that's another 6. I'm going to score any of the game end tiles that I managed to get to. How many lakes am I built around? How many people do I have out? How many slot tokens do I have? How far did I get up the yellow track? Or whatever happens to be showing. Like this flip side of this one is, how many of these am I on? Well, I'm on 2, so I would get 6 points. If you were the person who got the game end, you get 4 points for that. Otherwise, these 2-point tokens are used, so everybody gets 1 extra action. If something happens where you would normally get a major artifact and there's none left to take, then you take a 2-point token. You score those. Again, those are end game points. You get 1 point for every 5 remaining resources. I have 7, so I gain a point. And then finally, you gain points based on your artifact card. This card here. How many beakers did I have? How many lakes am I built, or how many crystals am I built around on the side of the board? Well, right now none, but hopefully throughout the game I would have been. And how many people do I have out? Whoever has the most points wins the game. There is an expansion called Call of the Abyss that adds in a few new components and a couple new rules. Call of the Abyss adds in 4 new faction boards. Now, unlike these others that are double-sided, and this comes in, the double side comes into play during that scenario pack, which I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. But unlike those, these are not. These are single-sided. But these add in more tribe abilities, more different ways of playing. Each one of these have different tokens that are activated with tribe abilities. It does come with 1 extra endgame scoring tile, so you just add that into this pile and shuffle everything together. It comes with an extra scoreboard. This board is basically, we set it alongside of the board. That seems to be where the artwork all matches up. So you set that next to the board like so, and you actually have, it comes with a 3rd score tracker for each person. So you have that guy up there too. It also comes with more machine tokens. You just add into the stacks. And it comes with more of, a lot more than that. They're still in the bag. But it comes with more of these tokens too. You just throw in the bag. It comes with lakes. Now, these are put out, or bodies of water. These are large lakes. These are shuffled into the rest of the cards and put out. The only rule is they cannot be near each other and they cannot block passage because you cannot get over these. You're basically going to replace, as you're putting your board out, you're going to replace some of your tiles with these. And these now give you some new abilities throughout the game. So if you build next to one of these, and these are all visible at the start of the game, but if I were to build next to one of these, I get points on this board right away. So depending on what type of shelter I built, whether a small shelter or a large shelter, I get 1 or 3 points. And then every time I hibernate, I get extra bonuses. So if I'm built here, every time I hibernate, I get a point on this board and I get an extra book. Next to this one, I would get an extra gear and an extra crystal every time I hibernate. And if I were to build up here, then I would get an extra food and an extra movement on one of my machine tracks. So building next to these can be very beneficial throughout the entire game. Now, this particular board, as you progress down it, you get to draw special cards. There is a deck of cards, and these are stronger action abilities that get to be played on your board. So these are just a little bit stronger than the normal guys. This guy gives me a crystal and a book. Like this bottom action, move twice on this board, on the yellow track. And every time I play this, I would slot it under, and I get to do that every time I play it. So it's not just a one-time thing. This one here, if I slot it on the bottom, I get a crystal for every one of the large lakes I'm near. So if I have built near 3 large lakes, oh, that one's here. Let me lay these down so you can see them. So if I have built near 3 large lakes, I would get 3 crystals out of that. So these are a little bit more powerful. You draw 2, you choose one, put the other at the bottom of the deck, and again, it goes into your active area immediately. It also comes with the journey cards. Now the journey cards are a little different. You put 3 out, you have a stack, you put 3 out, and those are the 3 that everybody can work on. Now in order to activate them, you have to have a specific number of the icon above it. So in this case, I would have to have at least 2, 3, or 4 or more of the beakers on my board. And again, the beakers can be found on a lot of these small, on a lot of the machine tiles. The expansion brought them in on the slot tokens as well. But if I want to activate this, I would use my switch token. So this gives an extra ability to your switch token. Instead of just gaining a resource, I can now activate one of these cards. So I would activate my switch token, claim one of these cards. So say I had 3 beakers, I would immediately get 3 points on the Abyss board. I have to destroy a yellow card to do it though, immediately. So I would take any one of my yellow cards and I would just take it out of the game. It's gone. But I would get 3 points on that board, and then I turn this over, and then for end game scoring, it becomes a beaker. Again, I score for beakers, so that's actually good. But I also get 3 points out of it. During the game, anytime when you have this board out, anytime you are to gain regular blue points on the main board, you could convert them into Abyss points 2 for 1. The Abyss points get you, again, they get you these specialized cards. There's also 2 more ways of getting major artifacts on this board too, but you get these cards. I can also, anytime I were to get Abyss points, and I know I'm close to getting a bonus over here, I can convert them 2 for 1. So if I know I'm getting 3 Abyss points, maybe I take 1 Abyss point and 1 of these points instead. So I can convert them back and forth with a 2 to 1 ratio. At the end of the game, you're simply going to add them together. So they don't convert, they just simply add together at the end of the game, because this is another way of scoring. There's also going to be another end game scoring option right here, that if I can get a person out here, and to do so, I don't have to pay any cost. I literally just have to do the action and put him out here. You don't pay books for him, you don't pay food costs for him, you just put him out here if you've gotten to at least 8 on this track. So that is how you add in Call of the Abyss. It doesn't really change the game at all, it just adds in a couple more mechanics. All right, so the last thing I want to cover, and again, this is major spoilers if you do not want to know about this. However, I feel like all of these rules are simple enough, you could literally open the game up and include every one of them right from the start. So again, if you don't want to see this part of it, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Probably going to have a couple bloopers at the end because I've been interrupted by a couple of cats. So you can always fast forward to the end and see those. But otherwise, thank you for watching. Now, if you want to know a little bit about the scenario pack and want to include these rules right from the start, the scenario pack comes with just a deck of cards, and they're all numbered, so you can put them back in order quite easily. Or actually, I guess it's a campaign deck. In the campaign deck, it is basically a lot of storyline. So it talks about, like, for instance, this very first one. It's been 5,000 years since the end, 5 millennia in darkness after the first end of mankind. As the world froze above them, survivors gathered in tribes beneath the ground, living isolated for years, cultivating their differences. Each tribe told their own stories about the end. Now each tribe is guided by a truth of their own view of what caused the end, how it could have been avoided, and how a new world should be built. The ground above us has started to thaw. Once again, we emerge from our caves to rebuild a world built on truth. We have been given one last chance. And then it tells you to stop and read the next part at the end of game 1. So game 1 is literally just everything I've already taught you. Then you flip it over, and at the start of game 2, you now get a new optional rule. Your switch token gains a new power. So not only can you just gain a resource of your choice or activate one of the journey cards if you're playing with the expansion, but now you can also gain the top ability on somebody else's card. So if I'd had this card slotted right here and Greg decided to use this new rule, he would move his switch token down. He would tell me, hey, I'm going to take a crystal and a food, unslot your card. Okay. He gets a crystal and a food, which is much better than just one food or one gear or one book. But I get to unslot that card and immediately put it in my rest area. So I now have that to use the next time I hibernate again. I couldn't use it anymore now anyway. It was already done. That was a previous action. So that actually benefits me. It benefits him. But that is one new rule. That's the new rule that comes in with game 2, is to allow you to take the top action of anybody's slotted card. Now, there are ways to reverse stuff, and I didn't really talk about, like over here on this sideboard, once you open this up, you can reverse the card. As long as I played the top action of the card over here, he could use that one. He could not use the bottom action if I'd played it instead, though. Also, at the start of the second game, you're given the Formica Tribe. Now, the Formica Tribe is another double-sided board that acts very similar to the 4 that the game came with to start with. So that is another option. So at the start of the third game, you get another faction to pull in. You now have the Vulcaners, or the Vulcanters. Sure, okay. So you now have the Vulcanters you can play with as well. The new ability that comes into play, the new rule that comes into play, is that you can now flip any of these or your other 4 over to the moon side of the board, and it brings in all of these tokens. Each tribe gets their own set of tokens if you're playing with the moon side, because those tokens will activate specific things on the board. So for like example, the Formica gets to use these tokens right here. All right, so that's what unlocks with the second game. So you get basically your tribe options just doubled. So at the start of the fourth game, you're now bringing in some new tiles. The new tiles are these crystal tiles. And these tiles essentially just replace any one tile already out on the board, any unexplored tile. When you explore them, it costs you 4 gears to do so. You immediately gain 4 points and a crystal, and then you flip it over. Now these cannot be crossed. These are called the vast crystal caverns. When you build next to one, so say I have flipped this guy over, and I'm going to build right here instead of here. Now, mind you, you can't move them after the fact. I'm just example. But say I had built here, now I would get a crystal and a victory point and a crystal. I would still get all my abilities from the large lake tile as well, though. Same rule applies. If I'm already right here and somebody flips this over, I immediately get those points, just as if I had flipped this, when I flipped this over and I immediately got it because I was built next to it. And then the last optional rule it brings into play is the drafting mechanism. So now for the drafting, it gives you a whole slew of starter cards. You take all of the starter cards that from all 4 decks, or how many ever decks are for people that are playing. You take all your starter cards. Oh, that's not a starter card. You take all your starters, you shuffle them together, deal everybody 7 cards, and now you draft them. So you no longer have the exact same options available to you each round. Yes, each deck was a little different, but all of the base icons were the same. They were just on different cards. But that is the 4th rule that came into play with Game 5. Now, in addition to all that, like I said, it gives you the two new factions. It opened up the nighttime abilities on all of the existing factions. It gives you a couple more game end tiles that you can use on the side of the board. So now you have 8 of these to choose from, all double-sided. But it also gives you more slot tokens you can throw into the bag, as well as more machine tokens you can throw into your stack, all of which give you a few more enhanced abilities. That is the entire game. That is how the scenario pack or the campaign pack adds in. Again, nothing huge. It just adds a couple more tweaks to the rules and makes the game a little more interesting. So up to you if you want to play through each one of them. Sorry if I spoiled anything for you by doing so, but I warned you. That is how you play Revive, complete with Call of the Abyss and the campaign pack. Please let me know if you catch any mistakes I made. I tried very hard to make sure I covered everything. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it all made sense. But yeah, thanks for watching. are you doing? You're not helping here, baby girl. Boy. You're a boy. No, 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 no. Come on, get down. Get down. Come on. Come on. Oh my gosh. Hi guys, meet Oliver. Yeah, Oliver wants some attention today. Go on, go on. There you go. So I would, well, I've already got 5, but I would raise it up to 6. What? What? All 3 of you have now made an appearance, you little turds. Okay, go on. Oh, there's my other tile. I wonder what happened to that. Okay, so that's playing a card. This is moving. I'm not actually placing anything on the board. Honey, you need to go outside. Go out of the room. I'm going to close the door in a minute. Go on.